Hi, it's Tanya from My Forking Life, and today we're in the kitchen and we're making your favorite chocolate pudding from scratch. Now, this is a recipe that my family loves. Hey, baby! Okay, working from home with kids. It's so much fun. All right. Chocolate pudding! All right, so before we continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more recipe videos. All right, so let's get started. Ah! Thank you, Cora. Thank you. All right, so the things that we need for this recipe are we're gonna have some sugar, some cornstarch, some baking cocoa. It's unsweetened. It's pretty much just cocoa powder, but you can find it in your grocery aisle. And we're also gonna use some regular milk. And we wanna make sure we have our other ingredients out and ready to go because this does go a little bit quickly. You do need to pay attention to it while you're cooking it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to get a medium-sized saucepan and we're gonna put that over medium-low heat. And I'm gonna let that heat up just a little bit before I add in my dry ingredients. I'm gonna add those in first. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, it's warmed up just a little bit. I'm gonna add in about 6 tablespoons of that cocoa powder. Going to add in about 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch. Just throw that in there as well. And we got to sweeten it somehow, so we're going to add some white granulated sugar. I'm going to do 1/2 cup. I'm going to add that in there as well. And I'm going to use a wire whisk to whisk that together. Oop. I forgot my all-time favorite ingredient, salt, just a pinch, just to make that flavor really come through in this chocolate pudding. And I like to whisk it well enough to where I don't really see those chunks of cornstarch, because if you don't get rid of those chunks of cornstarch, what you'll notice when you have your pudding is you'll have chunks of cornstarch in your pudding. You can smell the cocoa powder already. All right, so I've got here about 2½ cups of milk that I've already poured out and set in a container so I could pour it in, because what we're gonna do is I'm gonna whisk with my left hand and I'm gonna slowly add this milk in. I'm guesstimating about 1/2 cup each time. And I'm just stirring it in. Slowly. See that milk is already getting eaten up, so I'm gonna, once that little bit of milk you poured in kind of like dissolves, just add a little bit more and stir it up. Now you'll notice I still have about 1 cup of milk left, and this mixture is pretty liquidy, but again, you really need the whole 2½ cups, so pour the rest of it in there. Now you can consistently whisk it like this. My hand usually gets tired, so I usually do take a little bit of a break and then I come back and whisk it some more. But this is gonna take about 10 minutes to thicken up. So just make sure you keep an eye on it because you don't want it to cook too long. And you also don't wanna forget to whisk it too long, because what will happen is it will burn on the bottom, and that's not, burnt chocolate just isn't delicious. So just keep an eye on it for about 10 minutes. You can consistently whisk it if you like, or you could take short breaks, but do not walk away. And make sure to keep that heat on medium-low. You also don't want to turn it up too high, because then you'll just end up scorching the bottom before your pudding gets fully cooked. Now, as you notice, little bubbles are starting to pop up on the top of my pudding. That means it is getting nice and warm and it's starting to boil. We don't want it to come to a full boil. We just want it to warm up and thicken. When your pudding mixture starts to thicken up, you'll start to feel a little bit of resistance when you're mixing it, or mixing. You'll start to feel it resist a little bit. And again, I'm using a stainless steel pot here, That's why I'm okay with using this wire whisk to scrape the bottom of it, because it's not going to hurt it. You can already see that that pudding is starting to thicken up nicely. I hope you can see it. It's beautifully thickened. And once you start to feel, now it goes quickly, and this actually hasn't even been 10 minutes. This actually took me 3 minutes. Sometimes it takes 10, sometimes it takes 3. Now the way we test to see if our pudding is done is we take a metal spoon, and once it starts to coat the back of that metal spoon, that means that pudding is done. Move it off of that heat. Our pudding is nice and thick. It's so easy. Remove that. Now we want to move quickly here. That's what I said. You want to make sure you have everything out. Here I've got a glass bowl. We like our pudding nice and chilled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately pour this mixture into this bowl. Oopsie, I probably should do it this way. And you see no burnt bits on the bottom because we made sure we watched it and we didn't walk away. To make sure we get all of that pudding in there. And now what we're gonna do, over there, is we're going to go ahead and chill that pudding. What I'm gonna do is just kind of flatten it out just a little bit. And I am going to use some plastic wrap and cover this. Now, the reason why I'm covering this with plastic wrap immediately is because air and pudding, when it's hot, do not agree at the top. And if you don't do this, you'll get a nice skin on the top. So we want to avoid that. And I'm going to just go ahead and put the plastic wrap on top of this pudding. But I'm going to make sure that the plastic wrap touches the top so that it doesn't leave a skin on the top. And I'm gonna let this go down to room temp before I pop it in my fridge. So I'm just gonna leave it here for a little bit. Feel that jiggle? I'm gonna leave it here for a little bit, and then once it gets a little bit chill, then I'll put it in the fridge, let it chill in the fridge. Or to be honest, you could also have it like this, or you could let it just cool just a little bit and have nice warm pudding. It's whatever you want. All right, so I'll be back in a little bit. Bye. And we're back. It's been about 5 minutes because we really want our pudding. And so we're gonna eat this pudding warm instead of doing what we usually do, putting it in the fridge for a few hours to let it set up and have nice cold pudding. I know, baby, we're gonna have our pudding. I know. All right, so I've got my pudding here. I'm gonna go ahead and take off this plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in these nice little mold jars. Now, if you decide, now this pudding, like I said, as you usually would, refrigerate it, and it'll last on your fridge for about 2 to 3 days. And what will happen is when you do refrigerate it overnight, you might notice a little bit of condensation on the top. That's fine. Just stir it up and serve it. It is as good as new. Definitely not going to serve this hot pudding to the baby. She's going to have to just wait just a little bit longer. Ready? And you could top this with whipped cream. It is so delicious. And there you have it. Homemade chocolate pudding. Super delicious, super good. A favorite. Alrighty, there you have it. Bye.